Well, happy Friday, everybody. Back here, another live episode, but I think that's okay here. Good catch up. In an ideal world where maybe we're sending out game ball press releases, not at 5:30 in the morning, happy to go live and kind of do all that stuff as it happens. Weird timing this week. We had the rules come out on CFL Free Agency Day and everything else. So we are here now, your catch-all, all the UFL rules, the game ball, merchandise, all the transactions, AJ McCarron, everything else. We have John Lewis here looking snazzy. I like putting my studio to shame. And then we have producer Max here kind of keeping us on track today. Max, a part of the workforce now, kind of clocking in and clocking out here. So Max is here catching up on everything today. And then I will be out of town next week. So knowing that, uniforms and all this cool stuff will be coming out. But in the meantime, we'll do this. John came on back before kind of ending the season, I think, looking forward. I like to do a welfare check before we get into everything. How are you feeling here? It's like 42. It wasn't a cool number to do today, like 40 days to count down. But how are you feeling here heading in?
Well, I'm feeling optimistic about this. I laugh because I think one of the times we talked about, if the merger talk, it's like, why would they bother with UFL? Like, what kind of cachet does the UFL have? I mean, we all remember the old one, but I'm looking forward to it. It seems like, as you guys know, because, it's like there's a trickle of information, and then that turns into like someone opened a fire hydrant. So it's been, it'll be interesting to see like what happens within the next, what'd you say, 42 days or so. Yeah. But no, I'm cautiously optimistic. I mean, I'm old. I remember the original USFL. So if we can just, we've got 2 or 3 seasons here so far. So I'm staying positive on this.
Yeah, I think, and I want to get Max's thoughts on this. I think in a perfect world, like there was a ton of news this week. I wasn't really, I was very whelmed by kind of how everything came out. And I know we're kind of, well, it's, post Super Bowl and we don't have a lot. And okay, who really cares about, like, I felt like anything this week, excitement level wise, it was kind of like the bare minimum. Okay, we're getting everything out. We're getting everything out. Max, how did it suit you? Because we got, this was the most information we've gotten this week, I would say, since kind of the initial merger talks.
It's like, oh yeah, we have this thing, we have that thing that we were finally having, but at the same time, it still doesn't feel put together. Like, for example, the shop disaster. We'll get into that later. The Under Armour situation, not a fan of that not being resolved either. You have like murky player transaction situations, and also you have the natural like skepticism of, yeah, all these things are confirmed now, but is it really going to be as good as it was whenever you're taking away all these things that made the leagues as good as they were, taking away roster spots, taking away players, taking away teams? It's going to be interesting to see how it all melts together.
Yeah, and this is just for the record. This is why we have Max and John today, because John's a little optimistic, Max is a little pessimistic. So I think together we'll get to all that. Yeah, it feels like we're getting there. Like I said, I still want one of these, and whether it was the schedule last week or the rules, like I just want one of these to really kind of hit, and just. I don't know. I want anything to spark, maybe even the way the USFL stuff did kind of do its initial launch. But speaking, big news today, warranted its own press release. The AJ McCarron signing, and this was weird. I know, John, I know you're off of Twitter, a little more on Threads. There seemed to be like this big, who's going to break the scoop of the AJ McCarron signing? Like, even though he was released from the Bengals and we kind of knew all this stuff, and we had the Howard getting involved, and Marty was talking about, okay, he's actually finally kind of signed now. John, on your level, is this warranting the press release, everything this morning? AJ McCarron returning to the league. What do you think? Because we had the Matt Corral stuff as well this week we can talk about.
Right. No, I get it. Sounds like I'm missing a lot over there on Twitter. No, I think it did because, McCarron was one of the stars of the league. I don't know if he resonated outside of, our niche of spring football, but I mean, he got some attention, and he was the XFL record holder. I guess there are a lot of people that did that since there was only really one season of the XFL in, 2023. But, I think it warranted that, because you make a good point there, Reed, about we needed some news to hit. The shop, as Max said, was underwhelming. And the schedule that was fine, and that got a little momentum, but I think it's not getting the outside momentum because this league has to get casual fans. But I think for us, us basement dwellers who like spring football, I mean, this warranted a press release. I think that's mainly who's going to the UFL site right now. I don't know that the casual football fan who's just wondering, what's next in pro football is visiting the UFL site that much.
Yeah, Max, in terms of, and I think there was a different narrative where I think people are excited. The AJ McCarron, the Matt Corral thing, it was a little more like, okay, maybe it was washed out or didn't work out and he's trying to revive. Like, what do you make of the AJ and then kind of that differing where it seems like there's two different narratives on these two different players?
On Corral, it just kind of feels like it's another guy who was a talented player in college who didn't work out in the NFL, who was a decent draft pick who didn't work out, was trying to hand in the spring league. Just add another name to the long list, right? He could work out, he could not. We'll find out. McCarron, I mean, obviously he was a statistical leader. He was winning MVP awards or the equivalent of Offensive Player of the Year because the XFL did not want to have an MVP award because of reasons. And so, and also on top of that, it's a Battlehawks player and arguably the most prominent Battlehawks player. So I think anything that happens on the Battlehawks that is important to that team, you could argue warrants a press release just because of the attention that team gets. And so I think the reaction to McCarron is fair, and I get the muted somewhat or less positive reaction to Matt Corral because he's more of an unknown at this level.
John, are we I'm a little over the Battlehawks hype right now. I'm just a little it feels a little because the Stallions, I think, obviously did a great job with the USFL and building that fan base. And, we've been out there and, we have tons of, hardcore like Gregory's of the world that, listen to the shows every week. But with the Battlehawks, it's that way with the XFL where I'm I'm a little over this now. It's not even like you won anything. I mean, spoiler alert, you didn't even make the playoffs. Are we over that? Or are you kind of still numb to the whole Battlehawks?
I mean, I'm all right with the Battlehawks. They're fine. And, it's not like I'm a fan or anything, but no, I mean, I get it. They, if you are the UFL, you've got to feed into the Battlehawks because they were the premier team, even though they didn't make the playoffs. You're right. You didn't win anything, but the fan support there. And now to the point where, most likely that's where the championship's going to be. I mean, Max, has that even been official yet? Or is that another one? Someone's going to try to break that one here pretty soon.
Well, RJ put it out, right, Max, and then took it back. So I think it's official, just not officially announced. Max, have I read that correctly?
I mean, that would be the logical assumption. I would not say it is any more official than RJ Young put it in an article and that everybody else wants it to be true because people have been reporting that it's going to be in St. Louis since last summer. Everyone just wants to speak this into existence and we'll find out whenever. We got plenty of time to worry about that.
Yeah, but I mean, with the St. Louis, the brand, I think it was a good spring football brand. Much like, you mentioned Birmingham too. And what are they going to do with all those quarterbacks down there? That's what I'm still trying to figure out. But no, I mean, I get the St. Louis hype, strike that while the iron is hot, because if they come out and kind of flop, then you got to wonder, where's everyone going to go with this?
Yeah, it's a lot, it's a lot of pressure on Beck, Coach Beck. Yeah. And I remember we had it where they were changing the playoff rules and then they didn't really, right? And that's why we didn't report that. And then I even remember when we had the schedule out and we had the press release in front of us and people well, Coach Beck said they were changing. I'm like, this is the official release right now, but a lot of pressure on that. We had seen, I think it was Wednesday before this came out, Brandon Silver's also joining the Battlehawks.
Right.
Max, what do you make? Because I'm like, is that the big signing? Is this smoke and mirrors with AJ? But to have the Brandon Silvers on there as well, does he even make the roster at this point? I mean, I love Brandon. So I have his signed. I've redone my office, but I had his signed shirt behind me for many years.
I mean, Manny Wilkins hasn't played significant numbers of snaps in the quarterback position since his preseason time with the Packers. So I'd say by default, Silvers is the backup. Unless there's a massive upset. on the part of Manny Wilkins. So yeah, I don't think Brandon Silver is getting cut. I think he's the certified backup and the veteran option behind McCarron.
We'll do, we're kind of getting in, like I said, heading into break. We'll do kind of full training camp previews. I know Pat is going to do quarterback rankings and stuff on his channel, analyze and educate over the weekend. Pat would have been on and just him crazy with work as well. But I think we'll get Pat on. We'll kind of do deep dives of all the teams. We'll figure all this stuff out. But yeah, and then where's Corral ending up? Is that with Birmingham? Is that where he's going?
Right. Yeah. And I'm just, I mean, how many quarterbacks can Skip Holtz have down there? I know you want, some camp arms, but it seemed interesting to me. Like on paper, I thought Jabbar Smith going in was going to be the guy. And then, our guy, RJ, he's got other ideas. And then they add Matt Corral to the whole thing. So yeah, I don't know, but he's ended up there. It seems like and a few people have said the phrase, the rich get richer down in Birmingham.
Yeah, but I don't know. To me, that's a fine signing with him. I mean, I remember him getting drafted, and that was kind of one of the weaker classes here the last couple of years. Like, I think that's fine. He's close enough to having been on anything versus like, we got to get Johnny Manziel back or whatever. Like, right. I think he's kind of had been in whatever. Max, because I know this will get a ruse out of you. We're seeing a lot of comments at Canton for the championship game, not St. Louis. Like, besides space, I mean, I think you'd want it in the dome regardless. But thoughts at Canton, just because the USFL had a cup of coffee there, I don't know if that would be my game plan.
USFL fans want everything done their way, and it just does not reflect actually growing interest in the league. Putting the game in Canton would not grow interest in the league whatsoever. It would not attract fans. And on top of that, the ticket prices would be bargain bin basement prices, just like they've been the past 2 years. There's no logical reason to put it in Canton other than to appease USFL executives. The same way there was no logical reason to have the kickoff be the way it is, but they did it anyway. The same reason why they have 4 USFL teams and 4 XFL teams, even though one of them is actually an XFL brand, because they just had to appease the USFL executives and coaches and the XFL side. Everything's half and half, So, no, I don't think Cannon's a good idea, and I don't think it has to be St. Louis, but I absolutely don't think it can be in a place where a team is not located. And it definitely needs to be one of the more popular teams. Like, I would really don't want to see a title game somewhere where the brand isn't strong. Like, I don't want a Houston title game. I definitely don't want a Rice Stadium Houston title game. That'd be horrible.
Right.
It's hard because we're bordering on, and I know Birmingham had a lot of this, season 1 going into 2 of like, okay, well, they're the home team and they had, was there more preferential treatment towards them, or did they have it, is there an asterisk there? And I know we're bordering that way with the Battle Hawks. And just in terms of like, okay, then we're doing the press release for AJ McCarron, and we got Beck going out. We're doing all this stuff. Like, I liked Alamo Dome. I thought that was great. I mean, obviously, I was at the championship game. I don't think my wedding schedule will allow us to be at the championship game this year. We'll probably do a show. I just don't think I can get out Sunday morning to do it. But I thought that was fine, kind of a central location. I mean, this time around, where most of the teams being Central and East Coast, obviously, I think St. Louis makes a little more sense, but I liked it, especially when you had Seattle and Vegas fans last time. I thought the Alamo Dome worked well. We have a little bit of breaking news, I guess, here we'll bring to Mike Mitchell. Just had an article out. Any other thoughts, John, on the and we can always circle back later, but on the McCarron, anything else?
No, I mean, I think St. Louis is going to get some preferential treatment, and I think that some of the other teams outside of Birmingham are going to have to maybe earn some clout with all this. But you're right. I mean, I can understand why they would want to put it in St. Louis. And I'd asked Brian Kennedy, who is a sports reporter at KMOV. I had him on my channel and asked him, it's like, do you think that if the St. Louis Battlehawks aren't in the championship, and the championships in St. Louis, like, are you really going to, they're not the guess is they're probably not going to sell the 400 level like they're doing for these first few games.
My favorite was not this last Grey Cup, but 2 Grey Cups ago. It was in Regina, and the Rough Riders were not in the championship game, but their rival, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, were. And a lot of the Saskatchewan fans that had bought tickets hoping that their team would be in the Grey Cup, as opposed to selling the tickets to Winnipeg fans just sat at home, and it was like a half-empty stadium, which I thought was, the great irony of like the CFL. Like, we're gonna, we're shooting ourselves in the foot here, like we're so whatever. Max, anything else? I got the article from Mike. I'm going to pull up. We have some training camp details, which is exciting.
Yeah, I'll make this one quick. So the other thing I really don't want with the title game is I don't want it in a stadium that's going to be getting renovated soon, because you could get a much better experience from that same stadium if you just wait a few years. For example, the Liberty Bowl is getting renovated right now. Well, not right now. They just finished raising a significant amount of money to start renovating it soon. So I would wait till like 2026 or 2027 to put something in the Liberty Bowl, for example. Also, I'd rather they didn't stick it in a large open-air stadium. And if they didn't put it in St. Louis, I really think DC is an attractive option, especially when you consider the attendance from the 2023 XFL title game. If it was like 22,000, I think that was the number. So, I mean, the DC stadium capacity is like 19,000. You can take a little less capacity, jack up the ticket prices, and you have a ton of premium hospitality options at that venues. Yeah. And it would be such a great crowd experience at that facility. And I just think it's kind of, in the way, it's the gem of the league in terms of the most quality atmosphere you can get, ignoring the number of fans. Because even if you only have like a 3/4 full stadium, it's still super loud.
I like the DC. Hopefully, they'll allow people in the beer snake section that are DC Defenders fans. We all know how that worked out. We had comments here updating the St. Louis turf and everything. I will say, I laugh when you talk about doing hey, let's wait till 2027, 2028. It's kind of like I had my merchandise comments yesterday. People like, just give them time. Yeah, because time, that's the thing that all spring football leagues just have a wealth of amount of is time. This is interesting here, Mike. This is just coming out from the UFL Sports Illustrated site here, which we're a part of as well. This will be on here afterward. Appreciate that. I got it on the CFL side as well this week with our CFL free agency. But we have some training camp details. This just came out. XFL, nothing really breaking, but it's interesting. So the teams will be practicing together down in Arlington. Training camp beginning February 24th. We've known that. But Mike's got the breakdown here where the Defenders will be playing with practicing with the Roughnecks here at Brahmas, with the Panthers, St. Louis Battlehawks, and the Memphis Showboats, and then the Renegades and the Stallions. Kind of cross-pollination here, whatever. Max, any thoughts on this? You think this is interesting?
I mean, I haven't really cared as much about the alignments this year because the setup is so different, and all the history that we had before with like we're going to pair the Texas teams together here or whatever, and also you don't have the same like personal history the same way you did before some of these pairings. So like, I'm less interested in the pairings. I'm more interested in the facilities, but I'm sure they're pretty similar. If not, they might even be just the exact same ones they used last year for the XFL. I haven't had a look though. Newsom, South Lake Carroll, and then the old state, the Renegade Stadium, and then it was the Northwest ISD one or whatever. Yeah. So as long as it's all those ones, it's the same ones. But yeah, I mean, that all looks good. I don't remember all the exact details on the training camp pay, but I think it was still better than what it was for the USFL before because it's the carryover raise on that contract. So it's the best compromise you could get out of a bad situation.
John, in terms of, I would disagree a little bit with Max in terms of like when we were doing the schedule rundown last week with Andy, like maybe not for training camp, but some of these matchups on paper are exciting to me, right? Like obviously we have the Stallions versus the Renegades, right? Right. Stallions versus Battlehawks when that comes up, kind of circling things on there, even if the teams are kind of slightly different. I like having the conferences. I kind of think that's kind of what we wanted it to be. And then people were like, no, they can't do that. What do you make of this kind of the cross-pollination and building on at least, not the history between the two leagues as much, but these marquee, like the Defenders playing anyone in the USFL feels like a big deal to me.
Oh, I totally agree. And I'm glad too, because I think we had talked about this before too, about how it would be a shame for the XFL and the USFL brand to just go away. So I'm fine with the conferences. And then you've got, and it also makes a division between fans, whether that's good or bad, of the USFL lovers and XFL haters and vice versa. I do wonder how much we're going to get out of training camp, though. I'm hoping that the UFL really kind of goes in on, sending out content. And, I kind of miss the United by Football show. Remember that? I don't think they did it last year in the USFL, but they did it the first year. And it kind of told a lot of the players' stories, and you really got some behind-the-scenes stuff. So I'm hoping that maybe the UFL will do some of that this year. And I think that, when you tell those stories in those kinds of shows, I think you can you can build some casual fans up like that. Shark Dog he was a minor celebrity there for a while.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to think of the other side. Yeah, Matt, what do you make of that? Well, I guess my question would be like, I feel like social has been getting a little bit better, at least kind of from what I'm tracking. Timing of posts and stuff. But I feel like we're doing better. How do you feel like overall marketing wise going into this, at least social media?
Oh, you asking me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I'm a fan of the fact they got the town halls going for all the teams. I'm a fan of the fact that social media seems to be largely put together. And by the way, I should have said this earlier. I'm completely happy about and excited for the games as much as anybody else. I mean, obviously, but the lack of the promotion didn't feel very strong during the NFL playoffs. We got that nice pregame mention, and we got the moment with Jimmy Johnson and Dwayne. That was good. We had the game day moments, but then after that, like on a national broadcasting scale, it's been kind of muted compared to where you would want it to be, especially, spring football just got stronger or whatever, and then your advertising muscle does not really feel like it's any stronger than it was. In fact, it kind of feels like they're intentionally cutting back to, save some dollar bills. But, I'm happy that at least the local marketing efforts that they had before carried over. I wish it was at the standard where it needs to be instead of just where it was.
Yeah, I like the town halls, seeing that. I know DC just had one, right? Seeing them kind of running around the stadium. I will say, yeah, I mean, tomorrow, as this is kind of going out, would be, right, the XFL, kickoff date, whatever. Certainly different here where we have a month and a half. Yeah, I don't know where you kind of slot in the marketing here coming up. I will say, like The Rock is so involved right now in the WWE. It really kind of surprised just in the last 3 weeks here, and really just has kind of become a pivotal. John, I don't know if you kind of follow any of that, but like he's like turning heel, and they're
Right.
like he's feuding with Cody. And I mean, really, as much as I've seen him devote to that, so I don't know, where is The Rock's head at with kind of any of this stuff, but I just don't know where we slot here, because the XFL did a good job kind of slotting, pre-Super Bowl going in, or the USFL kind of. I don't know where we air this stuff and let people know now that there's a month and a half to go.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it, and there are a lot of people that are starting to turn against The Rock now. I saw some social media chatter against that, like, and The Rock, Dwayne Johnson has said that he is as hands-on with this league as he was with the XFL, which is kind of surprising. But I do wonder if there's a little bit of a lull right now, and I wonder if, to Max's point there, if they start to maybe, do a little bit more of a push here in the next, I won't say couple of weeks, but maybe some stuff comes out, because social media is free, so they can push some stuff out on social media through training camp. But I think once March starts, I think that's a really good opportunity to start. A lot of the casual sports fan attention is going to go to the NCAA tournament, but I think you can squeeze in there, and hopefully we'll see a little bit more of a push as we get, closer to kickoff, which, we've got a while, but I'm really hoping to see that. I can understand the lull right now. There's really not a lot that I think could grab the casual fan and bring them in here, a month and a half away.
I will say, and like I said, I think that if you want a little bit of constructive criticism here, I know we'll talk about the merchandise here coming up, but I think the teams are doing really good, and we've had like the schedule releases, and we can talk about times a day and all that. I joke online, right? Like, because it's 5 a.m, we have my time, but it's like joking here. The main XFL account I think could do better, because what happens, and I have it turned on where I get the notifications when the league posts. I don't have all the team ones, and the teams will do all this great stuff all day, and then whoever is running the XFL one will log on like at noon and just retweet 18 things, and then log off again, and then log back on like at 3 and retweet 18 things, and then so I think overall the league one could do a little bit better that way, kind of spreading out and parsing. But I think the teams, Max, to kind of round this out, and then we'll move on to the game ball and stuff. I've been pleasantly surprised with the team stuff right now.
Yeah, I mean, they seem to be keeping attached. The way the the league accounts are set up right now still bothers me because it's like
we need to have the except that it's the XFL parentheses UFL or whatever it is.
Yeah, USFL parentheses UFL, and they won't get the gold check for the other one, but they'll have the gold check for one, and it's only going to cause more confusion. And it seems like their logic is we'll leech off our spot in the algorithm by holding on to our names. And it's just like you're only going to be able to play this tightrope so long before eventually it's going to confuse people so much that you're going to have to make a decision on committing to this brand, because currently this brand is nothing more than what's on the league balls, what they say on TV, and what's in the advertising. Like there's no outward pushing on all their posts. It's like that whenever you see your account name, unless they have a hashtag that's the UFL or we are the UFL or this is the UFL schedule, you wouldn't even know if it's a UFL account, if it's coming from the league, because it says USF, it's going to say USFL or XFL. That's the logo you're going to see, because they still have the logos on there on I think one of them, at least. I think both of them. So that's
the USFL account is still USFL, right? The XFL one is the USFL is still the USFL account.
Yeah, like the logos are all not in conjunction with each other. It's a mess. It just disturbs me. For if you're going to push a new brand, then commit to it. And they don't commit to it, and it bothers me.
Well, I'm still like this when I post the Twitter thing, and I'm like hashtag UFL, hashtag United Football League, hashtag XFL. I'm like I'm trying to get anything. I'm like I still kind of go back and forth. Like if I just call this the UFL rules, is that enough cachet now, or do I need to have parentheses United Football League? Like I don't really know. We'll get into the rules. First up, let's because I think we'll get a little bit quicker through this. So we have the league ball, right? This is always exciting. I know Seth was order number 2 on the site. John, I think, was up there as well in the top 12.
I was number 11.
Number 11. This, like, we showed this when The Rock was on Fox, but then I feel like this is different in the back now, where we have the conferences and all of this. I'll defer to Max first on this. Thoughts on the game ball? What do we make?
It's simple. It has a logo, and I'll say this: it doesn't look ugly, which can not be said about some spring footballs in the past, like the AAF, where the ball legit was ugly and looked like a college football with some tape on
what a
it.
wrong opinion, Max, but go ahead.
Sorry. It's a ball that's completely bland and has no style, and also has a really expensive chip in it that the fans can't touch. So, don't like it. Anyway, this one at least has some reflective material on it. No signature, because this is the United League, and now Danny can't just, push herself all over this league like she could the XFL. So take that for whether you like it or hate it. The whole like, oh yeah, we're gonna have each conference on that, and we're not even have a logo. It's just text. Is kind of bland to me and disappointing. But I like that they have the team logos on the balls. So that's all I got.
Yeah, I like me personally. I mean, the XFL ball was the coolest. I mean, in my opinion, I have it somewhere here with the tip on the end that was supposed to whatever. I liked the USFL one before, where at least we had like the stars on the end, just anything to make it be a little more different. I saw comments on the ball talking about the large amount of the paint on it, potentially making it more slippy trying to catch the ball. I don't know if that's the thing, but John, I'm not the biggest fan of this logo, so this is a hard sell for me anyway. But what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I like it, but it also goes back to USFL and the XFL were supposed to be 50-50. There you go. Yeah, I mean that was a good one.
I mean, this is awesome.
100%. And what you can't see, like you can see there, but if anybody looked at the actual detail of that ball, the grip on it, it's incredible. The little X's on there. I mean, that is probably my favorite spring football. Yeah. And I've got a few, but it just seems like, the XFL ball was the same way as the USFL with the shiny logo and kind of, a simple design. I was hoping for a little bit more of some color in there, but I did order one, and I know we're going to talk about the shop, but what was interesting was, that's the ball that you're showing there. That's the one that I ended up getting. I think today or either later that day, they added where you could get the different team balls, which which is fine. I mean, I might have gotten it. I don't know who I would have gotten if it would have been Birmingham or St. Louis or, somebody, I don't even know, Renegades, because they were a champion. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I've got the league ball, so I'll take that. But I mean, it would just, those are so much nicer. And I do like the subtle logo on it with the teams.
I saw, so does the back, it sure would be nice if there was a picture of the back. Does it have the conference layout on it? Like where this is that on the back side of it when we have the team?
It's a good question. I don't know if you can click on there and see. I don't know.
I don't want to criticize too much, but I do, because like here you can see the Battlehawks. That's obviously the underneath. There's no
Right.
there's no other photo of that. So I don't know. Does it say hot stamp, compliment, conference marks? So that's got to be on the other side. So it's got to be the same with this. It looks like the one sold out already. It looks like the Brahmas is sold out already. Max 175. I saw people going crazy, but I think that's the price. This is like an official game ball. I thought that was the price of like the NFL one as well.
I can't remember the cost of the NFL one. I thought it was like 200, but I think that's
NFL
for like the
one is over 200. You're right.
The authentic one is over 200.
Yes. Yeah.
And then there's like a replica version that's like, I don't know, 100 or less. I don't know how much that one is, but if these are authentic balls, then 175 is fair. If it's not an authentic ball, then 175 is absurd. So, and it doesn't really say, it just says official ball, but that doesn't mean it's authentic. That just means it looks exactly like it. So,
and it comes from Big Game, so I want to give them credit because they do really good work with these, and I'm thinking that for $175 and it being Big Game, that should be an authentic ball.
Hopefully, but it's the league's discretion. So what kind of ball they want to sell. So no way to know until you get one in your hands.
Yeah, I don't know. I the logo thing is fine. I mean, I know they did that before. I prefer, like we said, how the XFL did it. I don't. It's pretty simple. The silver, I don't know. It's not super inspiring to me. Not that I think that you want things to be outlandish, but like I thought the XFL ball had enough to make it stand out. Again, we'll get to the rules here in a minute. I like having things that are a little bit differentiating when we're talking like, hey, well, what's the deal? Oh, well, because this ball, they got the tracking thing on it, and then they can do the kickoff or whatever. Like I like having a little different things so they can kind of do that. Anything else on this? We can get to the shop in general. Max, John, do you have anything else on the ball?
No, I'm hoping that it'll get here sooner rather than later, and I'll give you a report on it.
The only thing I have for you is that naturally, as long as these leagues try to angle to be in partnership with the NFL, they're going to try to make their ball look like an NFL ball and feel like an NFL ball. So this bland look does not surprise me at all, even if it's disappointing.
So this is, so Max sent me we have other photos of the ball. Okay. So in terms of the shop itself here, and so this went on yesterday because I really, let's just get like whatever up here. They've added more stuff today. John was pointing out they have the UFL. I like this with the black and gray with the logos and all of that stuff. Because I was just so annoyed yesterday when the press release came out at 5:30 that was kind of all I focused on. And then when I got up, I go, okay, let me kind of look through all of this stuff. And I had put out a tweet where I was very kind of underwhelmed by the quality of the teams. And I didn't want to be too harsh, but I just, we're kind of launching all of this stuff. I thought the options here, and just to kind of, if people aren't on Twitter, the balls are obviously added. The only Renegades shirt that you can get with the Renegades logo on it has the schedule on the back. I've been told 2 of the schedules are in fact incorrectly marked. So take that for what you will. And then the other options you have are with a helmet with the Renegades. So you can't get just Arlington Renegades thing without that. And then obviously you kind of have this polo, not a lot of options for sweatshirts and crew sweatshirts and black shirts, white shirts, whatever. Tweeted that out. I heard back from the league and they wanted to know that more items would be coming, and I certainly understand that. The things I'm looking for, even like hats, there's no XFL hats on here. The only hats you have are the carryovers from the USFL, but we don't count the gamblers because now they're the Roughnecks, and so we really only have 3 teams. I'm like talking just a black flex fit. I got a lot of hats. Max, initial thoughts on kind of the shop, because like I said, I said a lot of my pieces yesterday, and I was told it felt like my opinion was heard, but maybe not appreciated. So what did you think?
It's not enough stuff. It's not enough interesting stuff. And on top of that, some of the stuff they have is straight up poor quality, like having mismatching schedules is very bad form. For example, and then also like none of the stuff they have, or at least for the XFL teams, I haven't looked at all the USFL style stuff, but it seems they've retained a lot of the stuff they had, and some of that looks nice. Some of it's a little bland. Like I'm not a fan of the camo hats. Sorry. But
this is like stuff they had before, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is. I mean, they had this show, but so it's not. We didn't make anything.
Yeah, yeah. It all, like I said, until I see otherwise, it feels like they're doing their most to avoid making as much stuff as possible so that they don't have to spend as much money. And until it's proven otherwise, until I see some more stuff other than if they just make all this new era stuff for the XFL teams and make nothing else, that's not enough. So unless I see some Under Armour stuff or something else that's distinct, maybe something from Home Field that makes a lot of college sports t-shirts and hats, those are really nice. If they make something like that, I'll be interested, but otherwise, I'll just be disappointed, honestly.
Kate here has a comment. Hey guys, you're doing the best. I totally understand. I get, and this is I never do it, and because we'll talk rules and stuff here as well, and I talk social media. Like I never try to criticize without giving what I think is something that is easily done. Like I said, having black white shirts with the team logos that they added with the league logos, having black flex fit hats. I'm not doing this as a commercial on here, but this is the market no one has ever bought. Like Paul and I used to buy stuff. We would make our own merch, but like, this is just me on a like, you just, and I know this is like a drop shipper and they send it, and you got to go, they're going through, but like, I should not, my podcast that sells no merchandise, that has no, of any kind, like should not have like better, more robust options. And especially when you're launching this, because like John said, I went back today and they had more footballs. If I was someone that I went on yesterday, I'm not checking again today and tomorrow. Like, what did they get now? Like, I kind of go on and look. I sent it to my friends who are Sea Dragons ticket holders. They went on and looked and they said, not a lot of options, seems overpriced. Like, I'm probably not going to look back again. John, you're the optimist here. So what do you think?
Well, again, I mean, I had the credit card out and logged on because our boy Seth there, as you said, he sends me an email like at 8:00 local time in the morning. It's like the shop's open. So I'm like, I immediately log onto my computer, get the credit card out because I knew I was going to buy a football. But I was like, okay, I love long sleeve t-shirts. So I was like, I'm gonna get a UFL long sleeve, I'll get a St. Louis, I'll get a Birmingham. And they didn't have, and they had no, I didn't see, except for a polo, all they had was a UFL branded polo, none of the UFL t-shirts. And another thing I noticed, they don't have any women's clothing either. So I'm, not that my wife is really, dying for any UFL merchandise, but I mean, it's not 90, it's probably 99% men, but you would think that there would be some women's merchandise. That's why I think especially with the Under Armour, as Max pointed out, with Under Armour, I think there's got to be some more merchandise coming. So we've had some added today. And then, so I did buy a UFL t-shirt today and then had to pay shipping on top of what I paid for shipping yesterday. But I begrudgingly did it. So, but now, I'm reluctant to go back on next week and say, oh, well, there's 3 or 4 more things I want to get and I'm going to have to pay shipping again. But I'm really hoping that they will continue to add and add. And I'm hoping the t-shirts are good quality. I think Breaking Tees is the merchandiser for this. I'm not totally sure, but that's what it looked like. And I think they make pretty good stuff. So I'm optimistic about that.
I'm like, I'm looking here, like I have 2 Kraken hats like right here next to me. Like I am your target demo for all this. I think I probably have 15 Washington Commander hats. Don't tell anyone, but like I am your target demo. And so like that's why I'm just like these are the people, and this we had David had the comment here, you only have one chance to make a first impression. We'll hide that so we can see Max. Yep. And that's all I'm saying, right? And I understand more 100%. Stuff's going to be added, and I understand that we're working through all that, but I don't know how the XFL had their shop and the USFL had their shop, and then when they merge, now we have less combined. That's just hard for me to comprehend. Max, anything else on this? Here, go, John. Sorry.
Sorry, Reed. I was just going to point out, the stuff that you have on your site is what is that, Shopify or one of those?
Yeah, it's like a drop ship. So I get it's not, it's not apples to apples.
But nevertheless, if you went on the old XFL site, they had the same kind of stuff. They had the tumblers, they had, the plastic cups, they had the slides, they had all that kind of stuff was up there. So that's what, now, if I remember correctly, they ended up adding a lot of that stuff later on. So maybe we're going to kind of see the same thing here. And if I'm not mistaken, also the old XFL shop is still up there, and I think it is a Shopify shop.
Yeah, and it was always weird with the XFL because like the WWE was still fulfilling orders like through that, and it was going through all that. I will say, and because I had, like I said, comments yesterday, give them time. The best piece of merchandise XFL 2020 ever did was the starter jackets, and I have one that's got the the Dragons logo and everything on it.
Yep.
That came, I got it to me the week the league shut down because of COVID. So like. And I understand different circumstances, but you don't always have all this. Well, we've got 9 months to get all this going. Like, if you're so cash starved. Max, anything else on this? Because I don't want to be the negative Nancy, but I did want to say my piece on it.
I'll say two things. First off, I don't know if all of them are made by Breaking T, because all the ones that I saw that had Breaking T are named Breaking T and have a helmet on it. So
okay.
I don't know if any of the other ones are Breaking T or not. I haven't really bought anything because I'm not really buying tons of merch right now. But I don't know who else makes the rest of those. Second thing off, my grace to a league who is owned by a massive media corporation and by a private equity firm that has billions of dollars in money to spend, and The Rock, whenever they can't get a more deep stuff in a shop than like a limited selection of t-shirts and not even hats for like a significant proportion of their teams about a month before kickoff, my grace for that is pretty low. So if it would be one thing if they had the basic selection they have for those USFL teams for all the teams, then I would at least be like, fine. I would still not be happy, but I probably would not be bothered. But you can't give a pass to a massive corporation just because they have a hard time. It's your fault you're not dedicating the resources to let your shop be better, to have enough employees, to have the resources you need. And I'm willing to give all the benefit of the doubt to every employee in the league. I am not willing to give the benefit of the doubt to the owners. They have proven with the way they have run both of these leagues over the past couple of years that they deserve to have everyone be skeptical of them after how they treated us these past couple of years and how they treat their players and their coaches and their employees. They deserve that.
Yeah, this is basically becoming like Reed show and tell here, but this is the start. But anyway, the words, I agree, and like I said, I think that the team, the people that we know that are working kind of hand in hand in the social and all that stuff, I think they're doing a tremendous job. I just think overarching, I did not hear one person that was super like, the people either said like, oh, it was fine and more stuff's coming, or like they were disappointed. The other big news here, and then we'll get to comments and questions, all that stuff. XFL or UFL rules coming out. Wonderful timing for me, like half hour before we're going live for CFL free agency opening. And they're like, here's the rule. So like, not only, okay, so the one day you don't do the 5:30 press release, you do it like at 11. That's the CFL. Like, okay, guys, I gotta get one or the other here. Big takeaways, right? We're doing the USFL kickoff, which I think is a mistake. I'll voice that in a minute. We're doing the XFL extra points. We'll go to Max first on this. Big takeaways from the rule books.
It's another case of we got to have everyone's perfectly half and half with no consideration on what's actually a smart decision. We got to appease Daryl Johnston. We got to have the USFL kickoff. We got to have certain technology used a certain way. We got to get rid of the ball spotters, even though that made everything more efficient and it didn't cost that much. And it was just a logical choice to make. All so that we can appease both sides of the equation as much as possible. No one gets to have more pieces than the other, because God forbid we actually try to build something better instead of just trying to smush two things together into some soup. And with that being said, most of these rules were things that we've already liked from past leagues anyway. And so other than those small things that I have gripes with about philosophy and small choices that I don't like, whatever. If you want to go against the NFL themselves, who themselves is looking at the XFL style kickoff, be my guest. You're going to have to implement it anyway if the NFL chooses to use it, or else you're going to look really weird. So have fun with this mess while you have it.
I get one. I get like I understand what Max is saying because it does feel that way. We're trying to marry these two, and like you two need to work together here. Like we're gonna duct tape your hands, and kind of you got to work through all this. If where special teams are, we've just seen with Cavante Turbo, like if that's a mode that we're going to get players to the NFL, having a kickoff that more mirrors that, at least for that. I do get that they're saying that, and I'll have more thoughts about that. I will say, if he's now at Amazon, and people that follow Sam Short seen on that. Sam's been on twice in the past. If you look at the channel, kind of you can just search the channel. His interviews, he would come on again, but Amazon, and there's all clearances and stuff where he can't. He's like, I can't do NFL or UK. It's like I can't do any podcast, but interesting private thoughts with Sam kind of about all of this stuff. But if you want to know his thoughts, we did the XFL him on after this, everything collapsed, and then we had him on again talking the USFL rules. So interesting deep dive, like 40 minutes each time with Sam kind of talking about all that stuff. John, what did you make of the rules here?
Yeah, I agree with Max. It felt like it was there's a 50-50 split, and maybe I'm in the minority. I don't know. I loved the XFL kickoff. I think it was safer. I think it looked cool. But Daryl Johnston said it doesn't look like football. So he really wanted that. It seems safer to me. I do like, and I know, Brandon Aubrey was the big story last year, but to get rid of the extra point kick, it's like the old World Football League's action point where you have like the tiered system, and XFL did that as well. I really like that. I think it adds to the game. You're never out of the game, and you can add those points. So, I'm fine with the rules. It was the whole like onside kick rule, so to speak, where it's either 4th and 12 from the 28 or the 33. I guess they made some kind of compromise with that. But I like the rules. I think they're fine. I think they're different enough to distinguish this league from the NFL, but they're similar enough that the casual fan out there who wants to watch pro football, they'll understand it. And, and I think the NFL can always take away something. Like Max said, the NFL was looking at the XFL kickoff. So I'm okay with it. I like it.
I hated Daryl Johnston's comments about how the kickoff did not look like football. Like you can think that, you just don't say that. But I mean, Daryl's the same one that came out that's like, I'm befuddled why our ratings are so terrible. It's like, I also probably wouldn't have said that, Daryl. So I mean, I appreciate the transparency and the honesty here with that. But like I've said before, when you have one of the, like, what is the elevator pitch for this league? And that's always what I look at. Like, you're talking with people like, what's the deal with the XFL? Like, well, like The Rock owns it. And you can go for 3 points, and then they have a unique kickoff. Like, you kind of got to have a couple of things, right? Because, double forward pass, that works, but that's not, we saw it with the Landry Jones infamously and all that stuff. But like, there's not. And so I don't like getting rid of things like that. I also hate the USFL kickoff, and David has in the comments here, like, because it does artificially inflate the yardage back, and we're just kicking the ball further back, and that's not letting players get untouched to the 35-yard line or whatever isn't exciting. And I think I understand why they do it, because hey, let's kind of give these offenses a get-go here. But I don't like that. So kind of a multitude of reasons there. Max, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a way to artificially inflate offense. Also, the idea that the XFL kickoff doesn't get touchdowns isn't true. It's just a smaller sample size because you only had half of one season, and for one of them, and you had a full season where you had 1 touchdown. But in the other half season, you had 2.5 seasons. So the idea that you can't get touchdowns out of an XFL kickoff just isn't true. It just relies on creativity instead of just giving away yards. That bothers me that Daryl says it doesn't look like football whenever he participated in the league that originated that kickoff and was totally pumping it at that time. But now that, he was competing against the league that used that kickoff, he just wants to slide it. It's very two-faced and is one of the many, many reasons I do not like that man. And I will be very clear about that because I do not like him one bit. I will not have my green eggs and ham. Anyway, but other than that, I'm interested to see. There's still some things that are unclear, like technology-wise. Are they going to be doing the automatic first down line thing again? I don't think that's been confirmed. The USFL and XFL crews are mashed together, so you have that new factor going on too. Everything's still pretty half and half there. And then one more thing, the 4th and 12, which was, I believe, was closer to the USFL style. AJ Smith is licking his chops right now, thinking about how he can just hog the ball whenever he's coming back, because he can just, if he was converting 4th and 15, it's like crazy. Could you imagine him going for 4th and 12s? You know, Anthony Beck's probably licking his chops and like, I'm so going for it in the first game, just like I did last year. AJ McCarron's licking his chops. I feel like we're inflating offense to such a degree to where it's going to make things look impressive until you realize it's because we're intentionally making it easy. So take that for what you will.
Doesn't it feel like they're taking the punters out of this a little bit too? Because if I understand the punting rule correct, you can't coffin corner punt. It comes out to the 25. Is that right? Am I right about that, or am I wrong?
Yeah, so it was similar. Sam was talking about that to me, that he doesn't like how he's like, I feel like they're not really understanding some of the rules that were there before. Max, any thoughts on the punting?
I haven't checked the yard lines for the coffin corner kicks, but in the 2020 XFL was 35 for what I remember for the coffin corner, because they really didn't want people kicking the ball out of bounds or doing touchbacks. They wanted to guarantee a return. So 25.
All touchbacks, the kicks on the 25, any punt that goes out of bounds inside, we'll consider it back. Yeah, so that's more how the XFL was. Is trying to take a little bit more of that.
Except it's less strong of a punishment. And honestly, a lot of teams will just take that and take the 25 just fine. Yeah. Whereas in the old league with 35, teams legitimately were afraid to do it. They would pooch kick it on purpose and make it land at the 12.
Right.
So
that's a good point. That's a good point.
Whereas this version, it's basically just saying you can have it. It won't be, you won't get an extreme benefit from a coffin corner kick, but you won't be punished. And I want teams to be punished because I want returns. Because it was like over 60% of punts were returned in the 2020 XFL, and I'm pretty sure the 2023 way was pretty similar. But this is going to result in a lot more punts without a return. And that's disappointing to me, because the whole point of this is that we need more plays, we need more action, we need more excitement, we need less dead plays. So this is another case of you're appeasing the USFL people just because, and it's not actually helpful. It just makes your product more boring. But that's just me. That's just my opinion. Don't fight me.
We have dueling comments here. Does Max hate puppies? Max hates kittens. But then we have someone asking for you to be UFL president because you're speaking the facts. So very, very, very divisive here on that. I will say this, and I remember when Max, who was the guy that had the leaked podcast at the bar that was talking about all the, they're changing the rules and talking through all that? Mosley or something? Jim Mosley?
No, it was Manos. Jim Manos. Yeah, M-O-N-S. He was like an old Bills guy or something, and he was talking about Dave Peterman and all that. So that was funny. That was a great conversation.
Yeah, but the thing with that was they were trying, even the XFL originally, right? They and Sam talked about this, I think, in the interview, when we're doing that, and I like that they're doing the 1, 2, and 3, and you have to run the play, right? Because it doesn't incentivize anybody to go for 2 or 3 points if I can just kick a free point every time. But if you're forcing yourself to, the teams to run a play after the touchdown, you're going to get, we might as well just go for 2 because, 2 versus 5 or whatever. But there was debate, and Sam had talked about that, how much do we want to remove kickers from all of this? Because obviously, you can still do the field goal, but you have this, and John said with special teams, obviously kind of the punter limiting. We had a comment here, how would that, how does that help any punter make it to the NFL, kind of having this? So differing there, I do like that you have to run the plays here, like the XFL feels. I'm glad that stuck around, even if we lost the kickoff. What do you say, John?
Yeah, again, as Max continues to point out, it's all compromise. So, people don't tune in to football games to, watch the kicking game. So I get that to a point, but it just feels like, and that's a really good point. A lot of, it seems that at least, it's been a small sample size, but it's the special teams players who have had the most opportunity to move to that next level. Not just because of these tryouts or going into training camp, but they get into training camp because what these teams have seen on tape. And it feels like you're taking some of that out, and this is supposed to be another league of opportunity and all that. And, the player 54 and all of that. So that's a little disappointing, because I think it does limit some opportunities for special teams players to move on to that next level.
Just laughing at the player 54. That Moj with the BC Lions was down at the he was at Vegas for the Super Bowl and he was doing interviews and The Rock just happened to walk by and it was right when they were getting ready to do The Rock and Roman Reigns and kind of all that stuff. And he's like, oh, Rock, like you're really taking the Battle of Alberta to another level. Cause obviously Roman Reigns, had a cup of coffee with the Eskimos and then The Rock. I'm like, we're really pushing the narrative here of like, okay, now we're like moving the CFL stuff into The Rock and all that. I do like the 2 feet. I've seen a lot of USFL people now like that's what makes it better. I think the 2 feet's better. Max, any thoughts on that or anything else on John's comments?
I'd rather they inflate offense with 1 foot catch for safety and for, quite frankly, helping college players develop into NFL players, because you're going to have a lot of young players, than have 2 feet catch and make it just as hard as the NFL is for a receiver right out the gate. Second off, just to go back to the punt rules really fast, because this is stuck in my craw. Okay, listen. If the punt rules didn't help players get to the NFL, how come Dan Wheeling made it? If the punt rules didn't help players in the NFL, how come the increased degree of difficulty made it more impressive, their ability to punt the ball deep? If I don't buy that argument, because the results are the proof is in the pudding. If anything, the difficulty helps them keep the ball in bounds. It helps them roll the ball in without getting in the end zone. It makes them more precise. It makes it more challenging. It makes it more frustrating, but I'd rather have trial by fire than them not being able to make the cut. So, I don't agree with that notion. I think the idea that a rule being hard inherently makes it worse for special teams guys whenever they need to have difficulty and precision and repeated reps is bad. Whereas if you have extra difficulty for a receiver, whenever it's so hard for them just to focus on running routes and catching the ball, to then on top of that put on the 2 feet difficulty whenever they're just trying to make a camp. Like no one is really worried yet about an XFL receiver, USFL receiver being the toe drag swag guy and making fantastic catches and starting consistently. That's not a realistic expectation for any XFL, USFL, UFL, even CFL receivers for the most part. So that's why I don't like that.
David says he's going to customize the team jersey with a punter on it. But I just say you want trial by fire with special teams, but then you're okay with the one. You want the 1 foot, but 2. Like that's.
I justify my reasoning. I justify myself.
John, any other thoughts on the 2 feet? Because I like that. I think what Fan Control Football did the one, or I can't remember what their rules were. I did laugh. The NBA was showing like a LED floor that they're going to use for the All-Star game. And I'm like, Fan Control Football sitting there like, damn it, we had our chance. Right. But I think the 2 feet's good.
I'm okay with it just because that's what these receivers are going to have to do to get to the next level. But I will say, being devil's advocate, and as Max was saying, if it starts to cut down on offense, then you might want to revisit that, because you don't want 7-3 games as finals. Because that's not going to catch. I keep saying casual fans, but I really believe that for this league to succeed, it can't be us, just watching this. It's got to be some outside people, and they don't want to watch 7-3 games because people already scoff at spring football. There's a lot out there. It's easy to do because of the history of spring football. But if this will work and it will get guys to the next level, and you can have the offense, it might be a lot to ask, but the bottom line is I'm okay with it, because I think that's going to help these players more than anything.
Yeah, again, just around that, someone that covers the CFL as well, and they deal with a lot of are they better than the NFL? Are they worse? Or the talent level? And it's the same with this, like when it's obvious the talent level is not the same, right? By and large, I appreciate having differences, so you're not as focused on clearly these guys I like having not like bells and whistles, but having a little more like the CFL game is completely different, and trying to change that. Like I like having enough differentiating things that you're concentrating more on just that being a unique game versus like the USFL last year, which was like, this is the NFL light and they're played in the spring and they use the same music, but they just have less people in the stands. Like I like having a little bit more. Again, I didn't always like with the XFL what they wanted their kind of persona, what they wanted their brand to be, but I at least appreciated kind of that they had their brand. Max,
and their brand, and they really leaned into gambling. I noticed that, like the XFL ESPN, really, they did not shy away from gambling.
It was Ian Fitzsimmons the day that he was at Cashman Field, and he for the second half of the game talked repeatedly. He had the over under. He's like, "Oh, I have my receiver." I'm like, "I am so tired of hearing, dude, about your bet here, homie. Like,
Right.
I understand that's not the most exciting game right now, but like, anyway,
That's how you make those
Max-
kinds of games exciting. Yeah, because Vegas didn't have a lot of excitement.
They did not.
Okay, I'm going to pop a shot now. If you care so much about gambling, why don't you release accurate and consistently timed depth charts? If you care about gambling,
Well,
why?
but we don't know this year. You can't criticize it yet because we don't know
No,
yet.
no. But this is about the past. This is about what happened in the past. Because you talked about how the old XFL cared about so much about gambling, and then they dropped the ball, and then they had social media people talking about how depth charts don't matter and injury reports don't matter, and we're only going to give it out to the media. We're not going to post it on our website. We're not going to post it on social media. And then when people wonder why it's so hard for people to be involved in gambling and fantasy football for spring football, and it's pretty obvious why. So, if you would like to actually use that and leverage that as for your marketing, then you need to commit to it instead of sucking at it. But whatever, maybe they've finally gotten the message now.
But remember, and then it was because the XFL would do that. Then the USFL, like, was it Sam Shady got one of the depth charts, and then they're like, "You need to take that down. Like, you can't post it." It's like, okay, like, what are we? If you have any questions here, we'll round this out here pretty soon. I mean, we've touched on all the major points I wanted to. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. Do we know? I know you talked about the technology. Are we doing chip ball? Do we have Chipgate again? Is that what's happening, or are we still TBD on that?
I have not heard anything about the, you might have, Max. I have not heard anything on any kind of technology like that.
I haven't heard anything. I hope they keep the first down line. I actually thought that was really cool. The automated first down line. I thought that was awesome. I hope they keep Bolt 6 for replay reviews, just like they were using in both leagues. Other than that, I don't want a whole lot of extra technological influence. I don't want them to try to test anything terribly new right now. I want that to be for way down the road. The other thing I wanted to talk about, because now the AJ McCarron transaction is final, I thought since we had a few minutes, we could kind of give our thoughts on just briefly on who you would predict to start for each team before camp starts, give it 5 minutes and then let it rest. Because now we kind of have a full picture of who's going to be the quarterbacks in these leagues.
Well, I got to pull up. Do we have rosters here pulled up?
I got a list on my phone I can share with you if you want real quick.
I can tell you this. I'm still trying to figure out, like I said earlier, the Birmingham situation. I mean, it's like Jamar Smith is the starter. I mean, I don't know how I could go against that, but then they bring in Matt Corral, and then they had the draft pick. I don't know.
Is it league here? League rules, career stuff. Where's the rosters here on the website? I'm looking under teams. Am I slow here?
I just pulled it from Wikipedia because someone made like a draft page and they update it, but some of the ones are hidden, so you'd only be able to find it if you went to the 2023 season version. But I made a list of like all the ones that are like potential starting candidates, and I'm just going to text them to you right now.
Okay, someone's saying UFL Newsroom. I'll give them a.
Yeah, Newsroom does have like a draft like page that they update with the rosters, but it's not like it's to the minute like the league is supposed to get it first or whatever.
I don't want to get any spamware going to the site, Stefan. So just I don't want teams, UFL teams, Arlington Renegades. Well, hey, if they got it on here, coaching staff. Look at that. Yeah. This is okay. We're this. Okay. All right. It's broken clock here. We got it. So we got Renegades here. I like this. Quarterback, Luis Perez, Lindsey Scott, Holton, Ehlers. The Luis Perez rides again there. John, what do you think?
100%. I mean, I think that Lindsey Scott is maybe has a chance. Holton. It was funny that Holton Ehlers said, they pretty much said he said on a podcast that the coaching staff or management told him, well, we really want a younger quarterback to come in here and challenge Luis Perez and maybe win the job. So I don't know if they don't have a lot of faith in Luis Perez. But man, that guy's got such a track record. I don't know why you wouldn't. So I'm going to ride that Perez bandwagon all the way.
Max, I'm still amazed at that. I mean, good for Luis Perez here, but what do you think here?
I love Luis, but I think you gotta bet on talent. And I've never been more impressed by an FCS quarterback that's not NFL level since Lindsey Scott. I mean, he set all the records. He won the Walter Payton Award. He did all of it. So On talent, I have to pick Lindsey Scott just for that, but I do think it's going to come down to the wire just because of all the experience Perez has, and his adaptability is so far ahead of any typical spring football quarterback, especially who else is in that room. I'd imagine the learning curve for Scott will be tougher, and that in the early days he's going to struggle, and then as he gets settled in at the end, the talent's going to show, and they're going to have a tough decision.
I thought Ehlers was going to make the cut. I really thought he was going to make the cut with the Seahawks. Reed, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
you're good.
I'm a Seahawks fan, so I watched a lot of the preseason. And I thought, man, this guy's pretty good. He was very fun to watch when he's coming in there. I mean, obviously he's playing against fourth and fifth stringers, but he was fun to watch when he got in.
I was trying to. I didn't track. I would track a little bit more of the Commanders preseason, surprisingly enough. But we were at the game. Drew Lock was there. I think Ehlers played a little bit. We did go the one preseason where we beat the Cowboys, which was probably the Seahawks, playoff win for them. I mean, that was probably the height of the season there at that point. It does make sense, like what you're saying though, with Lindsey coming in a little bit more inexperienced, pushing Luis. Plus, like, Luis is going to have no issue with like competition, and he'll be happy to if he loses out, happy to mentor and kind of all of that stuff. I don't see Luis as having any sort of ego of any kind of like, let me help kind of make this guy be better. Max, but I will just say, like, this is, I like this roster. I mean, I'm not trying to like this. I'm not trying to shill for UFL Newsroom, but I like how this is laid out. Yeah,
it's solid. They got to keep the website maintained at the least so that people will keep coming back. The thing with Ehlers for me is, he was not my favorite American Conference quarterback or anywhere near it whenever he was playing. I was a bigger fan of Seth Hennigan at Memphis, who's still there because he's got like 6 years senior, 5th year senior, whatever is going on with COVID years stuff. So, but I wasn't that impressed with Holton Ehlers comparatively at ECU compared to like even Tanner Mordecai when he was at SMU. I was more impressed with than Holton Ehlers, and he's completely schlubbing in at Wisconsin now. So I would not expect Ehlers to be anything more than a backup for this team. And if Scott does win that job, just watch Perez get traded again and end up on another championship team for a playoff run. Just watch it.
100%. I can totally see that.
Before we move off, the Renegades, and Philip had a question. Are the Renegades going to have a banner hanging ceremony? Can't imagine that. But what else is Chalk Todd doing? I mean, what else? Like, hang it in the corner. Right. What else are we doing?
I mean, I think they could hang one and then, stick it in a closet till the team comes back for another year, But, it's funny. We could hang both. We could do a banner hanging ceremony and, because it'll be the champion versus champion. Just do a ceremony for both teams at the same time. Be like the battle of the champions, bring out the trumpets or whatever. I don't know.
Birmingham did it.
Yeah, they did do it. If the Lakers can raise a banner for their in-season inaugural tournament win, I think that we can hang a banner for the Arlington Renegades. I will say that. All right, so let's go here, Stallions. So we don't have the updated on here, right? Because we're missing Corral on here. Is there more? Yeah. So J.M.R. Smith, Jalen Morton, Adrian Martinez. We'll go first to John here because this is right. Are you all in on Buckham? Are you Stallions?
Oh, yeah, totally. I'm giddy up on that side of the conference, but I think to me, J.M.R. Smith, because he had, before, he got hurt in the first game of the season, so he was already named the starter, and then of course Alex Magoo took over and blew up. So to me, he's the guy. But there's been a lot of talk about Adrian Martinez, who I believe Birmingham drafted, and drafted early, if I'm not mistaken. So Max, you might know more than that, but about that. But to me, J.M.R. is the starter. I don't know that. Because I think he just has so much talent, and I think Skip Holtz has a lot of faith in him.
There's a personal bond there with J.M.R. that doesn't exist with most other players on spring football teams. With that being said, the talent Corral had coming out of college is clear. However, once you've been in the NFL for a period of time and your confidence gets shot, you don't know what you're going to get coming out the other end. Sometimes you get Ben DiNucci and he lights it up, and sometimes you get guys like Cole McDonald who are, as Reed would say, a wet fart or whatever. It just, you don't know what you're going to get. So we'll see. But I certainly think there's going to be a lot of conversation and hype. And I don't think it's settled that J.M.R. is the starter, even though he probably would be the favorite.
I don't think it's settled at all. No.
Are we surprised DiNucci, right? He signed back on with the Broncos, right? Are we... Right? Am I making is that a fever dream?
Yeah, he did, but I'm not surprised at all. I mean,
that he was the one and done. That he's like, I don't want to do.
He was blatant the entire time that the only reason he was here was to get back in the NFL, and he's just going to hang on into those coattails until he gets kicked out again. And when he does get kicked out again, he's still young. He's got a lot of time left to come back and do an AJ McCarron type of season if he wants it.
DJP says, I wonder who the Brahma Strider will be. We're moving through. We're getting there. We're gonna. Anything else, John? Here, I mean, like I said, we'll do full roster breakdowns when I get back from vacation, and we'll get on. Maybe John could do the Birmingham. I don't know, whoever. But we'll get all that. I know Pat can do Battlehawks and all that stuff. Yeah. We'll figure all that out. All right. Going to the defenders here, and this doesn't have Tiamu, right? Because he's official back now, right, yeah. Max? Or is it still not? Yeah. They haven't announced it yet.
I thought they did announce it. I know Mike posted about it. Have they not announced it yet? I don't know.
And then Jake Russell co-confirmed with that. I don't think it's official yet, but Tiamu is back. Mike's reported it. Jake Russell with the Washington Post, which God bless. I'm like, Jake, you work for the Washington Post. Like, why are you dealing with like UFL impressions? Like, I wouldn't. Anyway, we'll go first to Max on this. It's got to be Tiamu, right?
It can only be Tiamu. I don't even understand why the other two guys are really on the roster, honestly.
Well, you gotta have backups.
You are gonna have better options than those guys if you want backups.
That looks like camp arms. You're right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't like either of them, and neither of them perfectly really fit the De'Aaron King mold either. I mean, Francois definitely doesn't, and McClendon is like a weird, slower but taller version. Like, you could make it work with him as a running quarterback, but it's not going to be as shifty, as agile, as impressive, as threatening as De'Aaron was in any way. So maybe they're just buying their time. Maybe they're hoping one of these guys can really take a boost, because I was not impressed with either of these guys, and I think the hype for Jalen McClendon in particular was completely I don't even know where that came from, because you look at his PFF grades, you look at his film, and you're like, there's nothing that stands out, and there's not that many great, amazing decisions either. And then Francois was a complete wreck, both on and off the field last season.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Are we surprised that he's even here still?
I mean, the thing I remember about him is when he got in the huddle and told him to shut the F up.
Yeah,
that's the one thing I remember from him last year.
The Dormady controversy.
Yeah, he was the one with the Dormady, right? That said that he was giving away the playbook, right?
So that is just classless. I'm sorry, but I can't support that situation. But I love Reggie Barlow, and he did a lot for De'Aaron King, and now he's the quarterback coach at SMU, and I'm happy I hope that Reggie spoke to him about that and gave him some advice, because I think De'Aaron's going to have quite a steep learning curve on how to be a coach for the first time.
I was just perusing Twitter here. This is a tangent, but this is Colin Cowherd. That's the Washington Commanders winning the division next year. That is probably the greatest tweet I've seen in my life today. Very excited there. In terms of the Francois thing, like I feel like we've done this. So here's the question: like, DC brings in someone else, or they still? I mean, they have. I mean, when's the cutoff? I guess to get someone in there.
I mean, they got to have a few weeks. I mean, Cam doesn't start for another week, there's always guys that get brought in after the start of camp. So there's time. Yeah, they can find somebody. There's always somebody. I wonder where Eric Dungy's up to right now. For example, I don't know where he's at, but there's got to be a better option than Jalen McClendon and DeAndre Francois as your backup quarterback. And if there isn't, then trade for somebody, because some of these teams have 4 quarterbacks. Yeah. You got to find someone.
All right, John, anything else on that? We'll punch through here.
I think we covered that one, yeah.
All right, we get here. We'll roll through this, and then we'll try to get out of here. So the Roughnecks here, Phillips saying bring back PJ. I don't think PJ's coming back. Kenji Bihar, Reed Sinet, Jarrett, Guadantano. Go. What do you think? What do you think, Max?
Kenji got cut, so I don't know why he's here.
Okay, well, so we're not criticizing PFN today.
All I said is I don't know why he's here. Okay. I don't got anything else to say than that. I don't know why he's here. He's got cut. Anyway, Reed Sinet.
Is Reed Sinet? Is that it? Is he the quarterback?
Well, I like Jared Garantano has had quite a few cups of coffee on NFL practice squads and training camps recently, like on again, off again, all during like a rookie year. He's on again, off again. So clearly there's something the NFL sees in him. And, the XFL had him with their Palmer camps, and he was always a Jordan Palmer guy from his draft prep onward. So clearly there's things people are seeing in him that hasn't played out in his performances on the field in college. And he had a few impressive moments in preseason play with the Cardinals. So maybe he can put up a fight, but I think what Reed Sinnett showed in that one game before he got injured, which was tragic, he was by far the most offensive engine that they had at quarterback for the Brahmas that whole season. And then after that, immediately things became a struggle until like the very last game. They put up all these points against the defenders. Then Barker Romo, who was perfect on the year, misses the one kick that would have put the pressure on the Renegades to actually win that game instead of basically play like it didn't matter. And then everyone acts like Perez had a bad season with the Renegades whenever the game didn't even matter. But whatever.
Yeah,
I take Sinnett.
Right. Yeah. I think Guarantano it's interesting because, yeah, you mentioned he was kind of at Tennessee. He was just a disaster there. So, but to Max's point, the NFL has seen some things in him, and that might be one of the more interesting quarterback battles there, of the 8 teams. But yeah, maybe Sinnett might be the guy, but I'm interested to see what Guarantano, if he might have a chance in that.
It's funny you're just talking like this is all coming back because we lived through a whole CFL season after that. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I remember the missed field goal. It all comes back to me like a fever dream here. Anything else with the Roughnecks, Max?
No.
No. All right. Let's get in here. All right. The Showboats. Remember when was it Andy and I on, and we had, was it Bill here? Like, you guys are hating. You don't even know how good the Showbox are going to be. Ryan Willis here, Cole Kelly, Troy Williams, Case Cookus, Captain, Chef Case, whoever. We'll go to John first on this one. They got some options here, I think.
I think the chef's going to be cooking down there. I think there's a reason that they wanted to bring him in. I think what DiFilippo wants was it was like it almost felt like he's trying to put together like a USFL or XFL all-star team down there. I think if they can find an offensive line to give Case Cookus some time to throw, I think he can be a very, very, very good quarterback.
Max, go to you.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think for the backup quarterback spot is interesting because you have Cole Kelly, who was there last year. I don't know why Ryan Willis is here. He was cut on January 26th. So I don't know why he's on there. So again, that's the truth. I don't know why he's here. But Case Cook is definitely the favorite to start, but I'm intrigued in the backup race because Cole Kelly he's got the physical specimen talent to him, but the performances just weren't up to par. And Williams, I'm intrigued by because he was playing in that title game last year for the Maulers, from what I remember. So, I mean, you got to say he has some experience. Maybe you pick the guy that's been put in those pressure situations as your backup. And even though they're both like relatively young players, so it's not like you're mentoring, but you pick the quote unquote experienced guy, I guess, as your backup.
Max, remind me with Kelly I know they were kind of a 500 team. Was he replaced or did he replace the start? He replaced the starter there, right?
Yeah, he took over like a couple games into the season, I think, from week 3 onward. But his performances just weren't that good from what I remember.
It was very average. You're right.
Yeah.
Are we surprised Case hasn't been able to strike more here back again? I mean, he's kind of feels like he's just kind of resigned to this life now.
I mean, what do you expect? I mean, it's very hard for any quarterback from spring football to stick. I mean, it's DiNucci who's sticking around. It was PJ for a bit. And other than that, I mean, McCarron, I guess, made it back, but he was already there. This was just a detour.
He chose the UFL, Max. He said, I don't want to play in the NFL. I'm coming back.
Until his season ends and then he picks up a practice squad check.
I was told he chose.
He's choosing both. He's doing it both ways because he knows that he can get picked up halfway into an NFL season. He doesn't even really have to be there for camp anymore. So he's getting all the money he can get while showing his kids what he can do on the field because he's just that cool, which is fine by me. Anyway, give me Case Cookus all the way, and hopefully he gets another shot, but it's just an uphill battle for anyone that isn't a completely dominant player as a quarterback.
John, anything else here? We'll get to the Panthers.
No, I think I'm on the chef wagon there.
Dave's cheek here. Max, did anyone cut here before we go down this list?
No, all these guys are still there.
This is brutal.
John, go first.
This is brutal. I think I really thought that the Panthers were going to find another quarterback. I mean, I don't know. there are some people that are on the Danny Etling wagon, and I get that, but I just, I think Davis Cheek played maybe 2 plays last year, and Lewerke, I don't know that he played at all. They don't have a starter there to me. I mean, someone's got to start, but to me, they've got to bring somebody in.
I like Davis Cheek, and also I'll let you go, but I just want to make sure I mentioned because there's someone missing, and I was checking to make sure. EJ Perry is missing from this list, and he's talented enough to start, so we'll see. Anyway, Reed, it's your turn. You go.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, this was rough on that. It's crazy to me. Brian Lewerke, still floating around here, still being all this stuff. I'm with John. Super not impressed here with all this stuff. But they had issues last year, right? I mean, so who do you see?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I liked Davis Cheek when I was watching his film from Elon. I was impressed. There's still question marks over, how that's going to translate from Elon to here, and also how it's going to translate to Mike Nolan's system and the way they run things. But EJ Perry has been so lauded in NFL circles as like a sleeper guy whenever he was coming out of the draft, and things just didn't work out for him in the NFL. So if he can stay healthy and get playing time, because for whatever reason, he was on the Panthers last year, but he just didn't get play that much. I think he had 1 start, and then it was either injuries or something else happened that he wasn't able to play. And then he got picked back up by the NFL and he got let go again. And now he's back here. So I would like to see Perry win it because I think he's the most talented player. But I think it's really between Perry and Cheek, unless Danny Etling has some kind of weird career resurgence that I don't expect. Because Danny Etling's one of those guys, like, are we sure he should still be sticking around the NFL? But he's kind of somehow found a way. So maybe he'll prove me wrong. And then we'll have a big parade for him,
John, anything else here? We'll get the last 2 teams. We'll get out of there.
I'll say that if you really, right now, to me, if you want to look at the Panthers offense, you need to scroll down a little more and start looking at those running backs, because it seems to me like that's the only way that these guys are going to get any offense going.
Yeah, this is gonna be rough. This is our team here, team of the Marcast. The Brahmas here don't really want to buy any of the merchandise yet, but we can talk about the team. I know this list has been updated because Kurt's gone.
Cone's gone. Right,
Cone's gone. Jack's gone. Max, I know you were happy that Jack Cone. We don't like to see anybody get cut.
Stinnett's also gone, by the way. I don't know why he's here.
Okay.
Wasn't he on both? Wasn't he on the site for Houston too? So they double listed Sinnett.
Okay, well,
Okay,
observation. But is Sinnett gone?
He's in Houston.
Okay, so he's in Houston. Okay, so ignore that. So we got Quentin Dormady and Chase Gerbers. That's and I think you said Gerbers was my guy, right?
I think Garbers is the favorite, just based on talent. Yeah, Garbers, and his brother.
I don't watch college film. I'm sorry.
And his brother is playing for UCLA right now, so they're kind of like a football family going on over there. But I mean, just based on talent, based on the NFL experience, the pedigree, you have to go with Garbers. But Dormady is not going to go down without a fight. He was an established starting quarterback in the XFL last year, and he wasn't terrible. And also, he was in a bad situation, so maybe he can shine with some better structure, with some better talent, with some better decision makers, and maybe he'll prove me wrong, and maybe he isn't just a doormat. We'll find out. But it's really between those two. It's 2-horse race.
I'm so disappointed. I was really hoping, and Kurt had this big, I'm choosing not to, he had this big, I really wanted Kurt to be on this team. And then I could hate my quarterback. I mean, this would have been pure drama all season, right? It could have been a feud. And then I could have requested to have him come on the podcast, and then he could say no. And then it would be, be like a Brian Scott thing all over again, except that was a different situation because he was, we all remember how all that worked out. But John, what do you make of this? Because I was more excited with some of the guys let go, but obviously Dormady and
I like Dormady. I don't know that he'll be the starter, but like as Max was saying, when he had the opportunity to play, he was just in such a bad situation in Orlando. When he had the opportunity to play, I thought he was really good. So I would like him. Now, again, I'll defer to Max on Chase Garbers there because I'm not sure.
Yeah, but Max, he texted me when Cone was gone. Excuse me. When Cone was gone, he said Garbers is your guy.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if he's my guy as much as he is the guy.
He's
really
your quarterback.
He's guy. He's your quarterback, Reed, and he's the guy that it would be the expected starter based on pedigree and based on, whenever you have coaches talking about how they want to bring in talent at the quarterback position, and you land a guy like this, he was fringe 7th round undrafted, ended up being undrafted guy, went to training camp. You're going to expect that guy to be the favorite compared to a guy who was very unimpressive in college and did not make any kind of mark on the NFL in Quentin Darmody. So.
All right, we go ahead now. I'm going to tell you ahead of time, Max, you're going to get triggered when I switch over to this page here. So I'm just giving you that. So we got the Battlehawks here. Tiano gone, right? AJ, and then Brandon Silver's on here. Manny Wilkins, AJ. I mean, we talked about this off the top, right? Or AJ, right?
Yeah, I mean, it couldn't be anyone else. My only curiosity is whether Anthony Becht wants to use Wilkins in a Derek King kind of role more frequently now that he's had more time with the team. Because I think they could mix it up with him a good bit.
That Tiano cut to me was, I mean, I guess it was ahead of maybe they knew that McCarron was coming back, but I was kind of surprised that he got waived.
I wasn't, because they brought in Silvers. I knew we knew they were bringing in Silvers, and Silvers is a much more experienced and established quarterback. And Tiano is not the kind of guy who's going to want to be a third stringer who's never playing, because he had his own decent pre-draft campaign, and he has some talent and some was impressive. I remember Argos guys were in love with him whenever they brought him up to camp. So he doesn't want to sit around on a third stringer, and he doesn't have any special ability to be used in certain packages like Manny Wilkins can, to be sort of a kind of running quarterback. So it just made sense for him to go. I hope he lands on his feet somewhere.
Well, that's why. Are you surprised no one's picked him up?
There's still time, DC, give a ring, I'm just saying,
Michigan, right? We'll get into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. He should be on a Zoom with Mike Nolan anytime.
Yeah. What was I going to say here? All right. Anything else here, John? Battlehawks?
No, the Max Borghi thing, that I think for the Battlehawks, I mean, we're talking about quarterbacks, I know, but their running game, I mean, they've got some questions there. So they might need AJ McCarron to have another 26 touchdowns or whatever this coming season.
Well, here finally we got a super chat. Very rare super chats here. Cards Nation, Kaka order, baby. Let's go. I appreciate that. Don't get a lot of super. I listened to my post game Kraken podcast, and they only get they get 500 viewers for the post game. Like, oh, thanks for the super chat. Thanks for the super chat. Thanks for the super chat. I'm like, I get one every 4 months if I'm lucky. So I mean,
I know the only reason I'm on here is because I'm a 99 cent a month subscriber. That's the only reason I got this invitation. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you can become a member too. 99 cents gets you a membership. It makes me feel good. When I look at my little analytics and I see my little pitiful ad revenue, I'm like, oh wow, I got a third of 99 cents here for John Lewis for the month. So I appreciate that.
Bought my way onto the podcast.
That's
for
funny.
$1.33 to you.
I like that joke. That's funny. Max, anything else here?
No, other than gotta love the 99 cent army read. You gotta love it. And despite all the frustration, the irritation, I'm just glad we have a season this year. It really felt for a long time like anything was possible, and we could always still lose it at the tap of a button. So hopefully the ownership realizes their mistakes and appreciates the potential these players have, and truly makes something great and commits to it. My experience in the past tells me they are not so committed. I want to be proven wrong.
Hey, you were there. You were almost to a positive comment there, Max, and then you let it trail out at the end.
I gotta keep it real. I have hope, but reality says I should not.
Well, I will say, and then I'll toss to John here. I will say this, and it's interesting to me that I was always the big USFL hater, or what was I? I was the XFL hater when I said that they were going to get delayed, and then they got delayed. And then I was the big USFL hater from all the USFL people. But now that they're all right, we're all like, hey, we're all UFL now. Now I'm the big I'm always right. Now I'm the big UFL hater, and they're like, oh, Reed's so negative about the merchandise, and he's so negative about this, and I'm like. Again, I want this to work with Russ here, Super. So now I got 3 here, man.
Here we go.
I'm rolling. I'm gonna go. I can buy the Snickers bar at the store. But I've seen all of these from a fan or on the podcast. Like I've lived through all of this. I was at like nothing but me wants this to work. But when I see things that are, again, what Max and I have talked about this for years, like unforced errors, right? Like there's so many things that go against like all of this, and it's the biggest stuff about. So like the unforced errors of like having the UFL t-shirt on the shop the day the site launches. Like there's just stuff like that. That's what I'm nitpicky about, because I leave the football and all that stuff to all the genius, the you guys and Pats and everybody, Andy and everyone else that comes on. But from just the fan perspective, that's where I can talk about here. And we'll go to John. And now, man, we're boys, our ship. My father-in-law was used to like when my ship comes in. Our ship has come in here. $4.99. I don't think we've ever had a $4.99.
We're going another couple hours, aren't we?
Yeah, we're going. But John, anything else here? We'll round it out, and then I'll get my final prelude. We'll get out.
Yeah, Reed, I think you make a good point. There's a reason. If we didn't care,
Boogie Roberts checking in. Sorry to interrupt. Boogie.
All right, Boogie, let's go.
Boogie's checking in here. Let's go.
But if we didn't care, then that's where when you start to get apathy from people who want this to work, that's when it won't work. That's when it dies off. So yeah, okay, we're going to complain about, we wanted some more t-shirts. Yeah, we want some more merchandise. It's because we want these things to work, and we're kind of monetarily invested, but we're also emotionally invested. We want these things to work. We want to see these players move on. And we want a little something for ourselves here. We like it's great spring entertainment. So I mean, Chris is telling you there. I mean, I know you hate these spring leagues. It's why you talk about it all the time. But no, I mean, I'm more optimistic. I think, though, kind of circling back to what we talked about to start off, I'm more optimistic with this because of the financial backing that it has, because of the outlets it will be on with Fox, ABC, ESPN. But also saying that, I know that if this does not work this year, I don't know when we're going to see spring football on a level like this or on a scale like this again anytime soon.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think I don't know. This is the best chance, because I'm hoping that like anything that they like, if you've learned anything at least the last 3 years, like at least maybe of it. But again, we still see some of this kind of coming and going. So I don't know. Max, any final thoughts on here?
I want to add it with the we're all up to here with the BS right now about how these leagues are being run. And also, by the way, speaking of BS, no uniforms either.
Well, they're going to come out next week. I mean, because they're going. Spoiler alert: they're going to training camp, so they're going to be next week. I will be on the cruise to Cabo. So
hopefully they're out next week. I mean, they just because they should be out next week doesn't mean they will be for sale. Will they be only register for an email list, and then you have to wait till the start of the season to actually pay to order one? Who knows? Anything's possible.
But doesn't it make sense for them to roll out those uniforms right before training camp and say, hey, look, here's what these teams are going to wear. Yeah. By the way, training camp starts this weekend.
Yeah. They'll be, and again,
it'd be great if they operated based on what makes sense.
It makes too much sense, right?
Let me just say this. We'll see. Like we're paying for the premium cruise experience. I'm allotted like 4 Wi-Fi devices. So we'll see if there's even like there comes out there. But I have a feeling it's going to be kind of the same, whatever. John, I hope you're seated down here, because you're really going to lose your mind here. Are you sat down here? Chris, $10 super chat. What are we doing? Act my age here. This is crazy. Keep up the good work. Good to hear you, John and Max. Antidepressants. Hey, we're not. We don't need to make fun of mental health. I don't appreciate that, but I do appreciate the super chat.
That was worth $10. Come on.
This might make more money than now, John. I was going to say, because I know that John, I hold the record with John for the most viewed video on your channel. I don't know if any of them are. I think our Grey Cup show finally beat all of that with the 67,000 views. But I think you had a good long. You had a good long run there for a while with the king.
We ended up with about 20,000. I think.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. All right. So I would, like I said, rounding out here. Appreciate the super chats. Appreciate everyone. Like and subscribe. We'll do training camp stuff when I get back. We'll figure out, uniforms. I don't know. But otherwise, this is a good round out. We got everything that we did here at 3:30 on a Friday. So appreciate John. Go check out his channel at John Lewis Sports. I think John does a lot of great shorter content, right? The more that we just ramble on here for like 8 hours. John does a lot more like targeted, like let's talk the quarterbacks, let's talk this, let's talk the team legacies and kind of all that stuff. Max, anything else from you?
No, I've already said my piece on everything. I'll
Yeah,
I'll save one opinion for you whenever we get off because I want to finish the point. But everybody else knows it already. And I'm just so glad we're here. Despite it all, despite it feeling kind of gloomy because of everything that's already happened up to this point. There's always a chance to turn it around. There's always a choice, and if they just make the decision to commit, anything's possible.
John, anything else? I didn't want to make sure you got anything you want to say.
No, that was it. I appreciate being on and being able to talk to you. I've listened to you two talk a lot, and I was glad to be part of the conversation. That was a lot of fun.
Well, this worked out. Thanks, everyone. Have a safe weekend. Get ready, training camp, and all that stuff. We'll see you soon.